Thank you all for joining us today. I'm here with our dear, sweet pastor's wife, Mrs. Debbie Brown. And if you missed her last video on Worried or Thankful, I highly encourage you to go back to our Facebook and Vimeo to watch it. So as we know, just in the last couple weeks, our world has been flipped upside down with this pandemic and the mandates, and our kids have been home with just really no end date in sight, and our husbands have been home as well. So why do you think it is so important as moms to keep a schedule during this time?
Well, the Bible tells us that God says to do everything decently and in order. And if we're going to have decency and order in our home, we have to have a schedule. Without a schedule, ladies, you're going to be pulling your hair out. You're going to be crazy. And so something that's really important about scheduling is that our children need a schedule in order to feel safe and secure. And that schedule gives us boundaries, and it lets them know what's coming. When we pull that schedule out from underneath their feet, all of a sudden they don't know what's happening next. So there's some anxiety, there's some fear. Sometimes that leads to disobedience and, throwing temper tantrums and things like that. So having that schedule helps our children. It will also help you as a mom, just because you know what to expect next. You know what's coming. And if your children are school-aged, then really, we're not on an extended spring break, although the kids hope we are, but we are, our school, our children are still having school. Everything got sent home, and I do believe the public schools are doing the same. So they are also having school remotely. So keeping them on a schedule for school is going to help you as well. It will help you. I feel like when I homeschooled my two youngest ones for the last 2 years of school, not because I wanted to, but because we needed to. And I made my kids get up, make their bed, eat breakfast, do their devotions, everything before school started, and they had to get dressed because, there's that saying that you dress for success. And I did notice that my youngest son, on the days that he really was not, he'd call it academically inclined, he would come out and cut off shorts and a T-shirt and look like Huckleberry Finn or Tom Sawyer, and things did not go well in school those days. But when he really wanted to get done and accomplish something, he'd come out in a little tie and a church shirt and nice pair of jeans, and school went really well. But I think it was just because of the mindset that I'm not lazing around. I want to get this done so I can move on to my next thing. So I would encourage you as a mom to get your kids up, get them dressed, get yourself up, get yourself dressed, have your devotions in the morning before everybody else gets up.
Yes.
So your day starts out on the right note, and then that will help them feel like they are in school. They're not just hanging around in their pajamas, coloring a picture. They're actually going to school, and I think that will help.
Yeah, I agree. And I think when this whole thing started, I know my schedule went out the door, and I have 3 little ones, 5, 4, and 3. And I feel like they can sense, when parents are anxious and fearful, and they notice that mommy's on her device a little bit more,
Right.
just keeping up on what's going on in the world. And it's true. I mean, it's a real thing that's happening, and it's affecting all of us. And I think what you said is so true about how important it is to keep them on a schedule just so that everything is normal, and school, with all that as well. So some good advice there. And then now going back to just being on our devices and finding out what's going on news, how can we, as moms, just some ideas just to step out of that, and how can we tune that stuff out, or maybe or it's just some ideas of what we can do.
I think if we monitor how long, maybe you set yourself, okay, I'm going to check the news 3 times a day.
Okay.
Maybe when I get up, I'll just look and see if there's anything that's happened overnight. I mean, in California, things are changing hourly, it seems like, on what the different protocols are that we are supposed to be doing as citizens. So knowing that, things do happen during the night, So maybe getting up, checking it, and limit yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Because now that you are homeschooling, you do not have the time to be on the device
Yep.
that you might have had before, because you do need to be investing in your kids. So, and then maybe at lunchtime when you stop to make lunch for the kids, do another quick update.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the evening with your family or with your husband, maybe after the kids have gone to bed.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't want to breed fear in your children. And the more you look at what's going on, we're limited on really what we can do. Other than staying away from people and just being in our homes, we're really limited. And so creating that atmosphere of panic and fear in our home is not going to help anybody. It's not going to help us. It's not going to help our children.
Yeah, that's so true. Now, what if both parents are remotely working from home, whether it be mom or dad?
Well, that makes it very difficult. Most of our moms that are in our church that have little ones are managing motherhood by themselves. They are moms at home, stay-at-home moms, I'm sorry. They are not working outside of the home. So I would say that if the dad has to be remote, working from home remotely, that we need to go ahead and have that space that we're supposed to be having, our 6-foot space. Try to have the dad go in a back bedroom or a den, someplace that he can shut the door that's away from where the central part of the kids are at. If you're having school with the kids on the kitchen table, then dad trying to work there is not going to work.
Yeah.
So try to keep him in a different area. And moms, if dad is remotely working from home, he's supposed to be working. He's not there to fix the kids' lunch. He's not there to help with the math problems. That's what you're there for. So don't put that extra weight and just expect, I have another adult here to help handle the load.
Yeah.
If he's supposed to be working, then let him work. But, keep the kids away from him as much as possible during those work hours to try to keep that environment to where he can still do his job, because you need him to be able to do that job.
Yeah, and that's so true. I mean, sometimes we, it's like, oh, sweet, another adult's in the home. Kids, go see him, or run up to him, and that's just so hard. It has to be a mindset change that he's working and he has certain jobs to do, and do our best to keep our distance, and the kids as well. And so, how do we, as a family, run our day-to-day lives with the changes from these last days? And I know that kind of goes back to the previous question that I asked you, but how do we?
Just trying to keep on that schedule. And I think it's so important that we include God during this time. If you haven't had a family altar with your family before, you need to start now. You need to let the kids know that God is in control. And the more that you tell them that, the more it's going to help your spirit as well. And keep that fear from building. God hasn't given us a spirit of fear. So we know that that's from the devil. So we want to use Bible verses. We want to keep God's word going, keep the good music going in our home that's creating that atmosphere of relaxation and just keeping as positive as we can. That our kids feed off of that anxiety and that fear. And we as ladies tend to lean towards that. And so we need to find our verses that are going to give us something that we can meditate on about fear and about trusting the Lord and not giving into that anxiety. And that will really help us keep that right atmosphere. And if we in the home, the ladies in the home have that right spirit, that will help our husbands and that will help our children.
Amen.
And that will help get us through these rough times.
Yeah, and that's so true. And ladies, we have no excuse. We got to do family devotions, so true, to strengthen our kids spiritually and us as well. Yeah. So what are some ideas that families can do together during this time? Keeping kids busy or playing games or...
So Pastor and I did a video last night on a family fun night, and so we did talk about a lot of those. There were a few more that we didn't mention last night that we have done in the past. We lived in Washington for when the kids were all little, so we were inside a lot because of the rain, and so there would be a lot of times that I would just move all of the kitchen dining room table chairs out, and I would throw a blanket over that, and we would have a picnic under the table, and the kids thought that was great. And, I'd just cook hot dogs and have hot dogs and chips, and they were having a picnic under the dining room table, but it was something we didn't do very often, so it was fun. A lot of times we would just pull all the couch pillows off, and I'd get all my sheets and blankets out, and we would make forts, and we would play in the forts all day long. we would eat our meals in there some of the days. Sometimes we would just leave it up and let them sleep out there at night. They thought that was great. It was like camping in the middle of the house. And so just, some things like that don't cost you any money, but
Yeah.
there's something that you can do. It's supposed to start raining here again next week. So just some things that you can do inside. I have a whole list of probably about 16 different things other than what Pastor and I talked about last night.
Okay.
So Miss Ingrid said she could get those posted on our Managing Motherhood
Yeah.
page, and that will give you some more ideas of things that you can do to keep yourself busy.
Sweet. Yeah. And I enjoyed that video, by the way, last night. You guys had like 100 different ideas, family ideas that I couldn't even think of. But if you missed it, please go back and watch it. It was a really good video. And so teenagers in the home, right? So how do we get to engage them more?
Try to keep them off their device as much as you can. Encourage reading. It's a lost art, and most kids don't like to read. So, I'm not talking about an hour at a time, but set a time limit. Do 15 minutes that you're going to get a book, and you approve the book. We don't want a teenager reading something that's just full of just, pictures
Right.
that are like at a first grade level, and we also don't want them reading something that's going to go against our biblical views.
Yes.
And there are a lot of options out there. Our school library has options. I'm not sure if we're checking any of those out, but you can contact us and we can get you some ideas on different books that teenagers would be applicable for teenagers. One of the ideas is teaching them to bake. Girls and guys need to know how to read a recipe, and it's not going to hurt them. So bake some cookies, but make them do it and teach them the different what the different ingredients are, what the different measurements are, and then the reward is you're going to end up with chocolate chip cookies. And everybody's going to be okay with that. So get them in the kitchen and let them help you. But try to. There's games. There's so many board games. Have them interact with each other on that. But don't just hand them a device and let them stay on that device. Figure out. It takes a little bit more work. You have to kind of think of some things, scavenger hunts. There's just different ideas of things that you can do. But moms, you're going to have to put a little bit of effort in to make it happen.
Yeah, and I do like the challenge you guys gave yesterday on your video on, post a picture or a video of what your family is doing during this time. I thought that was really neat and get to challenge everybody as a family.
There's lots of extra time now. There's no excuse for us not to have family time. This is a great opportunity to make memories.
Yeah.
We're living in a time that we've never seen before, and we're going to look back on it. Our kids are going to look back on it. They can look back on it with fear, or they can look back on it and say, I remember we did this.
Yeah.
And you just made a memory.
Yeah, that's so true. And going back to the teenagers, focusing on life lessons, stuff that they're going to use later on in life, because you're training to release your child, right? And so giving them a budget, go out to the grocery store with them and just have them buy something to make a meal, right? Like what you had mentioned. Those are really good ideas.
To a dad, if you're going to change the oil, get your kids out there.
Oh.
You can have your son or even your daughter. She's going to need to know how to do that. Change a flat. There's different things. You're going to be outside more doing things. They're going to be home around the house. Kids can help with yard work, things like that. And it doesn't have to be that it's drudgery. It can be fun.
Right, exactly. Now, is there anything else that I missed that might have been on your notes? And
I don't
think
so.
we covered pretty much everything.
I think we got it.
So thank you again so much for watching, and I hope you stay tuned to more upcoming videos on our Facebook or Vimeo platform there.